The year is 747 CE. In the dusty province of Khurasan, far from the palaces of Damascus, a black flag rises over a rebel camp. It is a small gesture, but it will end an empire and birth another that will rule for 5 centuries. So let's begin our story with your subscribe. A dynasty in decay. By the mid-700s, the Umayyad Caliphate had ruled the Islamic world for nearly a century. Based in Damascus, the Umayyads had built a vast empire stretching from Spain to Central Asia. But the empire was cracking from within. The Umayyads favored Arab Muslims over the growing number of non-Arab converts, Persians, Central Asians, and others, who were taxed unfairly despite their conversion to Islam. Resentment simmered. At the same time, many Muslims, especially Shia sympathizers, never forgave the Umayyads for the killing of Husayn ibn Ali, grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, at Karbala decades earlier. To them, the Umayyads were illegitimate usurpers of a family that should never have held power. Tribal rivalries, economic grievances, and religious resentment combined into a single, dangerous question whispered across the empire. Who deserves to lead the Muslim community? The Hashemiyya movement. Into this unrest stepped a family descended from al-Abbas, an uncle of the Prophet Muhammad. The Abbasids were not Umayyads, but they were kin to the Prophet, and that mattered. Working quietly through an underground network called the Hashemiyya, Abbasid agents spread propaganda across Khurasan, promising a restoration of justice from the family of the Prophet. They were deliberately vague about which relative would actually lead. Many Shia supporters assumed it would be an alid, a descendant of Ali. The Abbasids let that ambiguity work in their favor. Their most important agent was a man named Abu Muslim al-Khurasani, a brilliant, ruthless organizer of uncertain origin, possibly a former slave. Around 747 CE, Abu Muslim raised the black banner of revolt in Khurasan. Black, the color of mourning and of vengeance. Within months, thousands had joined his cause. The revolution. Abu Muslim's forces swept out of Khurasan, defeating Umayyad governors and seizing city after city. The rebellion moved with startling speed, gathering momentum as it marched toward the heart of the caliphate. In 749, the Abbasid claimant Abu al-Abbas was proclaimed caliph in Kufa, Iraq. He would later take the title al-Safa, the bloodshedder, a name that foreshadowed what was coming. The decisive clash came in January 750 at the Battle of the Zab, near the Great Zab River in northern Iraq. The last Umayyad Caliph, Marwan II, led his army against the Abbasid forces and was decisively crushed. Marwan fled to Egypt. He would be hunted down and killed there months later, the final Umayyad Caliph to rule from Damascus. Consolidating power, victory alone was not enough. The Abbasids moved to eliminate their predecessors entirely. According to widely repeated historical accounts, members of the Umayyad family were invited to a reconciliation banquet and slaughtered. Umayyad tombs were desecrated. One prince, Abd al-Rahman, escaped the massacre and fled all the way to Spain, where he would later found a separate Umayyad Emirate in Córdoba. But in the east, Umayyad rule was over. The Abbasids also turned on the very allies who had brought them to power. Abu Muslim, the architect of the revolution, was seen as too powerful, too popular, and too dangerous. In 755, under the second Abbasid Caliph, al-Mansur, he was summoned to court and executed. Al-Mansur then set about building a new seat of power, not in Damascus, tied to Umayyad memory, but in Iraq, closer to Persian lands that had fueled the revolution. In 762, construction began on a new capital, Baghdad, the city of peace, built as a perfect circle and destined to become one of the great cities of the medieval world. Closing. The Abbasid Revolution had succeeded through a coalition its founders would later abandon. Persian converts, disillusioned Arabs, and Shia sympathizers who found, too late, that the family of the Prophet meant the Abbasids, not the line of Ali. But the new dynasty ushered in what many call the Islamic Golden Age, an era of science, philosophy, and trade centered on Baghdad, lasting for centuries. It had begun, however, the way so many revolutions do, with grievance, propaganda, betrayal,